As we mentioned earlier, this was the first transfer of power from one Liberal Premier to another in 70 years. Premier Wynne has unveiled a cabinet with some significant promotions for those who supported her, some demotions for those who didn't, and a lot of new faces. Here to go over the details, Marcel Wieder, President and Chief Advocate of the Aurora Strategy Group. Marcel is also a longtime Liberal activist, and we welcome you back to the studio. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Steve.
We should also tell everybody, Naveen Vaswani is hosting a Twitter chat right now, so if you want to weigh in on today's cabinet and the changes, hashtag AgendaTVO is what you want. Overall impressions, what'd you think?
Well, cabinet making is about leadership, and in this case, I think Premier Wynne, as we now can call her, Premier Wynne, reached out and tried to be representative of Ontario, representative of what she has in her caucus.
Having said that, if you supported her at the convention, you did well in this cabinet. If you didn't, you did less well. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Fair comment.
That's all you're going to say. Okay,
no,
let's go. I mean, I thought you were going to argue with me a little bit on that, but the fact is, it's true.
It's true. You know, in this case, all 10 of her supporters are in cabinet. If we compare Dalton McGuinty when he became premier, and he had 2 supporters during his leadership race, neither of those 2 ended up in his first cabinet.
So Wynne is a little better to her people than McGuinty was to his.
Well, I think it shows that she's loyal to those who are loyal to her.
There were a couple of minutes, we'll talk about those who were loyal to her in a second, but there were a couple. Laurel Broughton, the former education minister, Brad Dogood, the former economic development minister, both of whom supported Sandra Pupatello, both of whom, I guess you could say, got demoted today. How does that feel when you got to go to work the next day and everybody looks at you and they know that you got demoted?
Well, I think the first thing, the good news is they're still at the table.
They are.
And that's an important consideration. So it's now up to them as to what type of role they sketch out for themselves in a Wynne cabinet. Look, in the case of Laurel Broughton, there's going to be some very significant conversations taking place with the federal government. And you need a strong advocate who's going to be fighting for Ontario's interest nationally. And so with Laurel at Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, she's going to have that responsibility.
Okay. How about a lot of talk around efforts to get Sandra Pupatello to come back into public life, presumably for the Ministry of Finance? Ends up not happening. What scuttlebutt behind the scenes can you tell us about how close that was to happening?
You know, there's been a lot of back and forth, people putting it out there. I'm not so sure how much of it was actually going to happen. Clearly, after the convention, in fact, even during the leadership race, Sandra made it clear that she was interested in coming back as premier. She's done most of the major portfolios in the government and served in opposition as well. So for her to come back for finance for a short period of time, it could be a short government of 6 months, maybe a year or so, and then who knows what's going to happen. I don't know if that would really entice her to come. Do
you think those rumors ever really had legs? I know there's a lot of people out there talking about it.
There were a lot of people, and I think it made for a lot of copy and conversation. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was something that was significant. I think more likely, and Sandra's indicated that she wants to play a role in helping Kathleen, elect a majority Liberal government in the next election. So I'm sure she'll play some sort of role. I don't think it was ever going to be in a cabinet, though.
Okay, going back to the convention again. Charles Sousa dropped off the ballot, went to Kathleen Wynne. Eric Hoskins dropped off the ballot, went to Kathleen Wynne. Glenn Murray dropped off the ballot even before Convention Day, went to Kathleen Wynne. They got 3 of the biggest promotions today. And Liz Sandals from Guelph going to education, from the backbenches to the Ministry of Education, was also another huge promotion. Put that into some kind of context for us.
Well, I think in the case of Liz, you have to understand that she's eminently qualified. She has a background in the education field. She was, if I recall correctly, the chair of the Ontario School Board Association. She was a trustee. She was chair of the Guelph School Board system. And she was parliamentary assistant to Kathleen Wynne during her time in education. So no real surprise of her moving up into that field. And she knows the file well, and she'll be able to hit the ground running. So that was key. Sousa, with his background in finance, need to reassure the markets, reassure the people on Bay Street and on Wall Street that Ontario is still a good place to invest, and he speaks their language, so I think that's going to be a key point of why he's there.
Is he ready for that? That's a jump from a minor ministry to prime time.
Well, he was ready to become the premier, so if
Liberal delegates actually disagreed with that.
Well, he thought he was going to be ready for it. So I'm confident that he will. It's, again, a file that he's aware of. He knows the issues that are involved and will be able to translate that back to the financial people.
Let me ask about Eric Hoskins, who, of course, has a lot of international experience helping children in war-torn places around the world, but he's now going to be the guy in charge of getting on planes and selling Ontario to the world in terms of business, which he doesn't have any experience at. That's his job now, economic development. Is that a problem?
I don't think it'll be a problem. If he keeps his PA, and that's the parliamentary assistant, sorry, the affable Monty Quinter, who basically lives on a plane and has been out globe-trotting and helping Brad Douggood and before that other ministers in selling Ontario. I think he's going to be in capable hands. Certainly, Eric has the skill sets to go out there and talk about Ontario. And one of the things that Premier Wynne has tasked him with is dealing with the youth employment issue. And so he has a special connection with young people. His campaign during the leadership attracted a large body of young people, and so he connects very well with them.
Harinder Thakkar, the one candidate who dropped off the ballot and did not go to win, actually did fine today.
Absolutely.
Government Services and Chairman of Management Board of Cabinet. Right. Maybe just tell people what that is, because that's a very important job, even though it's all behind the scenes, right?
Well, Chair of Management Board is the body that does the negotiating with the public service. It oversees the distribution of funds to the various ministries and things like that.
That's key. I mean, you can't spend any money unless the Chairman of Management Board okays it.
That's right.
So he's got a big job. There didn't seem to be any vindictiveness on the part of the Premier to punish him for going over to Pupatello instead of her.
And again, this is a key point in a Wynne government is that they're going to do things differently. They're more about, not the pettiness of trying to get even. They're more about trying to establish relationship and build bridges. So in the case of Thakkar, that was a bridge building effort, and I think that's going to pay off. Look, he appealed to a constituency during the leadership, the South Asian community. He delivered a significant block of delegates during that convention. And that's an important constituency that Premier Wynne and the Ontario Liberal Party need to have in order to form a government in the future. And so it's a message to that community that says, we respect your candidate, that he fought the good fight, and he's now part of the team. Let's work together and move forward. 27 cabinet ministers, 25 backbenchers. The cabinet is bigger than the backbench. You heard Jane McKenna, the Conservative member for Burlington, say, way too big, sends a bad signal. Is she wrong? No, again, this is a sort of an inside baseball type of approach as to cabinet size. I don't think there's any perfect size to a cabinet. There's not one that's prescribed in stone. So it's what the Premier feels is the right combination of people to make up the cabinet. The people's strengths, and the other aspect of it is the geographic representation of the cabinet, the diversity of the cabinet, things like that all go into it. And so whatever the number is to get to something that you feel comfortable with, that's what it takes. Let
me pick up on diversity. We have the first Iranian-Canadian cabinet minister ever.
Absolutely.
At any legislature in Canada today. Yep. Reza Maridi from Richmond Hill is in the cabinet, the Innovation Ministry, Research and Innovation. There was one black woman in Dalton McGuinty's cabinet, Margaret Best from Scarborough. She has been dropped. Is that a problem?
No, because she's being replaced by another equally capable individual, Michael Coteau, from Don Valley East. It's the sister riding to the premiers at Don Valley West. So he's in cabinet, and I'm sure he'll do a good job. And in terms of Scarborough representation, Tracy McCharles is now in cabinet. So Scarborough doesn't lose any ministers, and the diversity remains intact.
Maridi, Coteau, McCharles, there's 7 others. We have 10 new faces in this cabinet. 10 new ones.
Right.
Just, I don't know, pluck one out of the air. Who do we have to watch?
I'm going to be excited about Yasser Naqvi, member from Ottawa, who was the parliamentary assistant to Dwight Duncan and was the president of the Ontario Liberal Party, now takes over at Labour, a very challenging portfolio, and one that we'll have to keep our eye on. Okay,
how about surprises? Anything happened today that you thought, didn't see that coming?
Didn't see Jeff Leal being named Minister for Rural Affairs.
From Peterborough.
From Peterborough. And didn't see Tracy McCharles being named from Scarborough. Those are two surprises that came out. None of it had been tweeted, leaked, discussed, conversed, Facebooked, or otherwise.
And the Premier did keep to her word that she was going to be Agriculture Minister as well as Premier.
Absolutely.
Anybody think she can really do both jobs at once?
Look,
besides her?
Again, you know, she sent out the right signals. The first trip that she made as Premier designate was to Bradford, to a farm. She was able to explain what a heifer was, and was able to take on the conversations on agricultural issues. I think, you know, when she sets her mind to something, she's very committed, and she will exceed expectations.
Okay. Last 30 seconds here, Marcel, and we can't let the day go by without acknowledging this was a pretty big day in Ontario history. You have the first female and openly gay Premier in any jurisdiction anywhere in North America in Ontario today. Is that a big deal?
Personally, I think it's a big deal. But I think there's a maturity about Ontarians that say it doesn't really matter who or what you are, it's that you need to do the job. And I think that speaks volume of how far we've come. I don't think labels now apply, and even the Premier in her own acceptance speech, you know, touched on the significance of the day and then moved on to talk about other firsts. The first, you know, that Ontario should be the first in innovation, the first in education, the first in healthcare, and first in productivity. So she's acknowledged the significance of the day and said, I got to roll up my sleeve and let's get to work.
For the record, the red tie that I'm wearing today has nothing to do with you or your party. It just happened to be the next one in the line in my closet. Just wanted to get that on the record. Marcel, good of you to join us again here at TVO. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure.
That's Marcel Wieder, President, Chief Advocate of the Aurora Strategy Group.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.